Welcome to One Rake at a Time. I'm your host, Art Jones, and with me today is Sharon Kerner, one of my very best One Rake at a Time volunteers. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you very much, Art.
On today's show, the first thing I want to talk about is what happened just last weekend. We had a festival called Crazy On Country.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was there every night, and it reminded me of sort of like a little miniature Woodstock, because it happened 3 days in a row. We had it Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And you know, as you're working there and you're getting to see the same people, it became sort of like a little community. It was a lot of fun. And all of the proceeds from this was put on by Save Crystal River went to One Rake at a Time.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we raised over $80,000. What a great festival. And these are some of these. This is a great magazine they put together, and just to show my audience a little bit, Community Can Help Save Kings Bay, and it told all about the shows and stuff. And if you get a chance, they have a pile of these at the Crystal River City Hall, and it's talking all about restoring the bay. So it's sort of a timeless magazine. There's a little article on me and Senator Dean on how we all get started, but it talks all about the players and everything, but what a wonderful thing they put together with our great sponsors for that. And the first night we had the Low Cash Cowboys, and they were a lot of fun. Yeah, they got the whole crowd was out there right on the front of the stage dancing and everything, and it was just amazing. And then the next night we had the Southern Fried Chicks.
And I didn't get an opportunity to see them, but I will tell you that everything that I've heard said they were hilarious.
They were.
Sorry to miss it.
They had the crowd rolling. It was pretty amazing. And they were, you know, up there all for a good cause. It was pretty amazing. And then finally on Saturday night, just when you didn't think it could get any better, I think the first night we had 800 people, the next night we had 900, the next night we were like 1,200. We had to scramble to get extra chairs and everything for them. It was the Bellamy brothers and Chris Jansen. And the people just showed up for that. It was amazing. I was out there working in the parking lot, and people would be coming in, they're like, the Bellamy brothers are in town, we love the Bellamy brothers. And they did not disappoint. They
Terrific.
did not disappoint. The crowd went wild. And then this one guy, Chris Jansen, what a beautiful voice.
I haven't heard him.
Yeah, he's one of those country singers, and he's just got that wonderful voice about that. So a great festival, and of course, we have another festival, the Stone Crab Jam.
Yes, we do. Stone Crab Jam. Don't miss it. It's going to be special.
Right. Well, that also raises a lot of money for our One Rake at a Time project. The Stone Crab Jam was originally started to help save Three Sister Springs. And we raised $35,000 the first year that we put on that event. And it was my Rotary saying, you know, we really need to save Three Sister Springs to make sure that it's not lost. And that jam has just grown after that. And so now it's all about, we saved Three Sisters, now it's all about really, let's save Kings Bay, right?
There you go.
Because Three Sisters and Kings Bay, they're kind of connected. So, is that your phone or mine? So, you know, they're connected. And when we clean Three Sisters up and make it really sparkle, and you know, you go out in Kings Bay, you realize that all of Kings Bay used to look like Three Sisters. So what we really need to do is just keep the program going, and that's really how One Rake at a Time was sort of started. We saved Three Sisters, now it's time to save Kings Bay.
Absolutely, and the funds coming in, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Join us at the Stone Crab Jam.
Yes.
Don't miss it.
Right.
You won't be sorry.
And we have this year, well, unfortunately when our viewers see this, the Stone Crab Jam will already have come and gone, but we can tell them how great it was.
Next year will be even better.
But we're having, you know, we had top-notch bands this year, just amazing. That was one of the things that the committee came up with, is like, well, how do we really make this show, this Stone Crab Jam, a little bit different than last year? And what we decided was this year we would up the budget for bands. And so we were bringing in higher caliber bands, and I forget all their names. I should have written them down, but if you were there, you will love the music. So they were great, I'm sure. Wendy and the something or other and stuff. But anyway, we had a great chowder cook-off and all those wonderful things. And we had the Meta people there with their boats. And The META is the Manatee Eco Tourism Association. And last year they had boat rides. And they said, well, we want to help, and we'll have boat rides. And we said, well, okay, you can have the boat rides there, and maybe a portion of your profits will go back into Rotary. And they said, well, guess what? If you give 100% of what we raise back to the One Rake at a Time project, you can have it all.
Oh, fantastic.
So that was a wonderful thing.
Yes, it is.
And so they're going to do the same thing this year. They're $10 boat rides. And I think last year we did, at least I think we raised $1,200. So that's like 120
fantastic
people going out on the boat. So that's a great thing. And it's just wonderful to see so many people together. I mean, we had over 3,000 people come through this Crazy On Country event. We're going to probably have over 10,000 people at the Stone Crab Jam. This year we got a special grant to advertise outside of the area. So we put in special advertising in the Orlando area and in the Tampa St. Pete area.
Tremendous.
And we were able to work with some of our local hotels like the Plantation Inn and the Port Hotel and the Days Inn and the Best Western to offer special packages for people. So if they went onto our website at stonecrabjam.com, they were able to click a direct link into the local hotels and get a special discount rate for that whole thing for the Stone Crab Jam. So it's better than ever.
You know, you have to hand it to the Kings Bay Rotary. I mean, they have gone all out. 6 years in a row, I believe this is the sixth.
Yes,
Sixth jam.
Sixth
Yes.
annual, yeah. So we're getting better at it. I'm in charge of environmental, which is a nice name. Is I take care of all the recycling and all the garbage.
Terrific.
They call me, I'm the environmental master. And we do pretty good. Actually, we have litter sticks, and what we do is, a lot of times at a festival, people just throw stuff in, the closest garbage can. And so we have trained volunteers that drag all the garbage over to the dumpsters, and what we do is have litter sticks, and we just pick out all the recyclables, throw them in the thing, and then all the rest goes into the regular garbage. So we try to make it as green-friendly an event as possible. And it doesn't really take a lot to do that. A lot of the materials we use, we make sure we're using recyclable materials for all the cups and everything else. So,
Terrific.
Great
Saving
thing.
the planet.
Yep. So when we come back, stay tuned. We'll be talking about a grant that we just completed from NOAA. So Art Jones with One Rake at a Time. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to One Rake at a Time. I'm your host, Art Jones, and I'm here with Sharon Kerner today. And what we want to talk about in this section is a grant that we just completed. It was a grant that came through NOAA, and NOAA stands for the National
Oceanic
Atmospheric
Administration.
Yes.
Between the two of us, we'll get it.
Okay. So this was our first grant that we did. And we applied for, I think, 2 grants before that, and we finally got this one. And it was a grant for specifically hand raking the Lyngbya out, one rake at a time, of the bay. And this was the first time that we were actually able to pay people to hand rake it. Because in the past, and you've seen, you saw in the intro there, most people always come out and volunteer. And we don't really pay people to hand rake it. We've had a few people that have done it before, but nothing like what happened with this grant. And so when we were putting this grant together, you have to follow very strict guidelines with there, and you have to meet the federal minimum wage requirements, which is about $11.07 an hour. Mm-hmm. So we had to figure out what an average person could rake out in an hour, and then figure out how many cubic feet that was, and make sure that it met the federal minimum wage guidelines. And I can rake out about 10 cubic feet an hour because I've been doing it a long time. I just put my back into it. But after an hour, then 2 hours, I'm done. So, so we usually have 2-hour cleanups. But so this time we averaged it out, and I had some people experiment with me. And really, the average person can pull out about 4 cubic feet in an hour, because it takes a long time. That stuff sort of pancakes down, and it's very compacted. It's extremely heavy. You're looking at a cubic foot of Lyngbya weighing 60, 65 pounds. So it worked out with the grant that we decided that through a lot of negotiations and experimentation, we were going to pay $2.77 a cubic foot to hand rake the Lingbia out. So we started on the grant, we got it all in order, and we got some young people. One of them was 20, one of them was 23, one was 25, one was 35. We got some young people out there doing it, and sure enough, they could rake out about 150 cubic feet per day. Which
Tremendous.
Which between all of them meant that they could, between 4 people working, that was a little over $400 at $2.77 a cubic foot. So each person made $100. So these young people were pretty happy with that. And the first week that they worked, they're like, "Oh, Art, my arms are falling off. I didn't think this was so, heavy." And I'm like, "Well, take the weekend off and we'll start you again on Monday and see how it goes." Well, the following Monday, they got going again, and then the next weekend, and as we got into it after a month, oh my goodness, these people were like, yeah, we're getting muscles here, and they loved it because they adapted to it, and these young men got very strong with it. So it was quite an experience to work the grant that way. And one of the things that I learned, Sharon, is that the hand raking is just so effective, what we do there, because we were able to get in there. We were doing that over in Cedar Cove. We were able to get in there with rakes and pitchforks and physically clean out a lot of the springs. There was some spring heads there that no machine really had ever been able to get into, because when the harvesters come along, it's a very broad front to it, about 4 feet wide, where when you get a rake, you can get down into those crevices, you can get around the rocks, and you can be pulling out the old tires that we find in there, or the old carpet, or an old boat anchor, or all these bottles and things. So the hand raking is just so effective, it's amazing.
And to witness the clean, pure water coming out of those spring vents, it just makes your heart sing.
Yeah, you got over there and saw that.
Of course, I was over there almost every day.
Yeah, and so
I wasn't raking though.
No, you weren't raking, but you and Tony helped us with the barges, because as we were loading up these barges, we'd get out there with the big pontoon boat barge of mine, and would throw all that Lingbia on there, and then we'd pile it up so high that it was starting to come off the edges. And it was like, wait a minute, no, we just spent all that energy getting it on the barge. Let's not lose anything. And so what did Tony do for us?
Tony got some barrels and sealed them up and secured them onto the barges, so they float now with the Lingbia on them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good stuff. And that really helped a lot. So now we had about a 6-inch railing around it. One of them had 6 inches, and I think one was 8 inches high.
Right.
And so we were able to really pile those barges up all the way. In fact, what we were doing is we would basically load those barges until they would sink. So I said, you sink the pontoons on those barges till the barge is only about that high off the water, and then we just very carefully brought it to shore, and then we were able to rake all that Lingbia into a waiting dump trailer. And like I say, these kids that I was working with, or these young adults that I was working with, just really impressed me at how good they got. It was amazing how they would load that thing up, load those barges up. So the first time we were doing like a couple barges, it would take 8 hours to load them. And now like they weren't fooling around. Now they could load those up in 4 hours by the end of the grant. And you could tell the difference in them. They had gotten big, and they were lean, mean, raking Lingbia machines.
And Cedar Cove benefited from it.
Cedar Cove benefited it, yes. Like we were talking about Three Sisters, and I would bring people over there, and I'm like, look, this is like a little miniature Three Sisters. And we had the pictures, we got the before and after pictures, and we sent those all into the grant. And it was really beautiful that you could see such a stark difference. Now you wanted to go swimming there. It was beautiful again.
Beautiful.
I mean,
yes.
It started out, it was all murky and nasty and all that Lingbia in there, and we just took ton after ton after ton. I think we ended up taking out 193 tons
oh, my goodness.
of Lingbia by hand in just a little over 2 months. It was like a marathon. I was exhausted. Because of course I'm out there helping them too, and we had some other volunteers come out and help them at the beginning, and we didn't want anything for us, but we helped them get started and everything. So we really loaded that up like crazy. But yeah, now you can go over there and it's crystal clear water. Mm-hmm. Because the more Lingbia that you take out, the more all of that stuff that's creating all that cloudiness and turbidity, well, the water has no choice but to get clear. And you saw the fish coming back in, and it's just a beautiful spot. And now it was sort of inviting you to go swimming there again. And just as, you saw the boat ramp, we started from just nasty, mucky, and now there's some white sand in there.
Yes.
And it's now like, oh, you get done, you take a little swim in the water. Absolutely beautiful. I had posted some photographs on Facebook of all the garbage we took out of there. That was pretty amazing. We found an old telephone in there.
Oh my.
Like, how does a telephone end up in the bottom of Kings Bay? I mean, this is one of those old rotary things, I was like, what the heck? How'd that get down there? All the old bottles and cans, a lot of broken glass came out of there and everything else. But anyway, we've got another grant to tell you about during the next section. So stay tuned. Art Jones with One Rake at a Time will be right back. Art Jones with One Rake at a Time. Welcome back to our show. Today we're sitting here with one of my favorite volunteers, Sharon Kerner. And
hello, everyone.
We just got done talking about the grant that we finished up from NOAA. And we actually just got another grant coming through. I was just at City Hall last night, and Jackie Gorman came up and whispered into my ear and said, Art, the other grant's through. We're just waiting on the signatures, so it should be good to go. And the wonderful thing about that is this grant is coming through the state of Florida. They have a special department called Beaches and Mines, and they're looking to improve water quality at beaches, which we have a beach at Hunter Springs Park, right?
We do.
So, and that's where people like to go swim. So we applied for that grant, and we were very lucky to get that grant because it's for $100,000.
Wow.
So the NOAA grant that we just finished up was a $52,000 grant. It was $26,000 the first year, and then it ended on September 30th, and then it will start up again next year in April. Well, this grant is $100,000, and it's backdated to July 1st to June 30th of 2014. So it's just coming through now in November, but that's okay. We still have time to get to it. I always say, no, don't worry, I'll find a way to use up the money. We'll get those kids
Rake
working
faster.
again. Yeah, rake faster. Exactly. So it's very exciting to get that grant going, and what I'm planning on doing with that is sort of piggybacking on the work that we just did with the NOAA grant. So we did a wonderful job there in Cedar Cove. And as we were finishing up that grant, we were getting over in front of the Best Western and the Crackers restaurant. You know where Crackers is?
I sure do.
Great food, great people. So we went over there and we were cleaning up, and there used to be an old, I guess it was an old cedar factory. It was pencils or cedar shakes. And they just, this is way back, and they just threw all that cedar into the water. And so as we were raking up the Lingbia, the young people that are helping me, first they started complaining. It's like, well, there's too many cedar shingles down here and boards and nails and all that stuff.
Oh my.
But we stayed with it and we started cleaning it up. So that's something no machine could do. You've got to clean that up by hand, because basically, in the old days, the water, I guess people thought it was like a convenient garbage can. I don't know.
My.
But anyway, it's just what we inherit. There's just a lot of stuff in there. So I want to use this grant to continue to clean up in front of Crackers and Charlie's Fish House and that whole thing there, because that's right where the city wants to put in that boardwalk.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Then
So
clean it all up and make it pretty, and the people want to come to Crystal River.
Right. So we'll continue working that area, and then we can also use it over by Hunter Springs, because a lot of times when we clean up the swimming area, and this whole project was started to clean up the swimming area for the kids. It was like, oh my goodness, can we at least clean out the swimming area for the kids, get this algae out of here? And as we cleaned that up, we found more and more algae, and we're like, oh my goodness, this is a problem all over the bay. Well, shouldn't we really clean it up for everybody? And that's how it's grown here. But we can also go over there, and when we do that swimming area, I'd like to get my seasoned workers that are working for the grant to swim, to clean up a little bit more outside of the swimming area. Because if you get away from the swimming area, you get outside of the buoys, there are huge mats of Lingbia out there that, we aggressively cleaned this spring along the shoreline. There's great SAV growing now.
Oh, terrific.
You've got your southern naiad, you've got your native
eelgrass.
coontail, You've got some hydrilla coming in there. You've got little pieces of eelgrass showing up, and you'll see it there. There's some beautiful vegetation submerged. It's called SAV, submerged aquatic vegetation, which is exactly what we want because it can eventually that can outcompete the Lingbia. But there's that beautiful rows of it. It's sort of along the shoreline there, and then out in front is still Lingbia, and of course Lingbia tends to want to suffocate everything. So I think if we can take our workers out there and get that Lingbia off, we're trying to clean that area out because we're partnering with Swiftmud to go in there and physically plant these eelgrass beds. They're going to be in these jute mats to where we sort of roll them out onto the bottom of the bay, and we've got special cages to put over them. So the manatees, bless their little hearts, they're always hungry, but they'll eat them all. So we got these cages to put them over there, and so they can eat all the tops off the eelgrass, but they can't rip it out by the roots.
Terrific.
So, but we have to get all that Lingbia out of there too. So I think that we'll do that with this grant. Will help us do that.
Fantastic, and that's along with the City of Crystal River restoring the shoreline vegetation, and it's just going to be fantastic to have clean water and a beautiful beach there at Happy Springs.
Yeah, everything seems to be coming together. They're increasing the size of the retention pond there, so we're stopping the pollution coming in, and we're stepping up the cure for the bay. Because you can stop all the pollution coming in tomorrow, but what are you going to do about all the garbage that's still in the bay now? It's got to come out. So it's a nice 1-2 punch with that, and it's just so nice to see all the groups coming together. And also we were going to mention that if you're watching this at noon today, and you want some of your friends to see this program, it's on again at 5:30 tonight. That's every Sunday. And if you're watching it at 5:30 and want to catch it tomorrow, it's also or not tomorrow, and then the following Sunday, it's on at noon and 5:30.
Every Sunday.
Yep. So everything helps. We're getting the word out, asking people to fertilize wisely,
or not at all.
Or not at all. Use Florida-friendly landscaping.
Yes.
And the main thing I always say about fertilizing is just whenever you fertilize, just make sure it doesn't somehow end up into the aquifer that comes out into our springs.
Nitrogen is deadly to our waterways.
Nitrogen, Lingbia hoards nutrients, so the more nitrogen, the better. And I don't think our grandparents realized it, back in the old days when everybody, it was just, sort of, they didn't know. They just the water comes forever, and just green lawns, and didn't really worry about it, didn't really connect it to the springs. But now we know. So it's our job to clean it up and leave it a little bit better for the next generation. So also getting the septic systems off and onto sewer is a good thing.
It's huge.
Yeah, that's a big help. And we have the reclaimed water project going in with Crystal River. So they're just sending out the water to Duke Energy, and they're going to get that off the spray field. So I think there's going to be a 20% reduction of nitrogen coming in there. So everything is coming together. So we're having a good cleanup. We're doing a lot of prevention. I think the future is going to be very bright for Kings Bay.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
Yeah.
We need to conserve water. Our springs are being depleted. They're being infiltrated with salt. So conserve, conserve, conserve.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for being my guest on the One Rake at a Time show.
Well,
Sharon.
Thank you, Art. It was a pleasure being here.
Yes, and I look forward to seeing you at the next cleanup. Watch the Chronicle newspaper, and we'll put it in there when our next big cleanup is. All right, so Art Jones with One Rake at a Time. See you next week.